Okay, so this is week 2 track mats, and this is what your final project is going to look like. I wanted to start with the final project so you have a general idea of what to kind of expect. So now I've started with a new project. We're going to make a new composition, so composition, new composition, of course. And like before, make sure it's HDTV 1080 2997. HDTV 2997. Some people did the wrong format last week. Let's try to avoid that this week. Make sure we're HDTV 1080 2997 square pixels as always. And our duration this time is going to be 10 seconds. And we've got our composition. So we're going to create a new solid background. So we go up to Layer, New, Solid. And I want it to be a grayish color. I don't care what color gray, but that's what we're going to go with. So I picked a gray color there. Click OK. Click OK. And we have a gray solid. I'm going to create a text layer with my last name. So I'm going to go up to the text tool. I'm going to type my last name. S-T-I-N. And make sure it's in all caps. And I'm actually going to make it a little bit bigger. Probably going to make the font size around 250. And then align it. Center vertically and horizontally. Make sure we align it. Get used to using the align tool. You use it a lot. So it's vertically and horizontally. If I wanted it left, if I wanted it right, I want it in the center. Top, bottom, middle. So I'm going to create my cursor and make sure that my text layer is no longer selected. In fact, I don't want anything selected in my timeline. So I'm going to click here, and now you'll notice nothing is selected. I'll do that again just to show you. My text tool is selected, clicking off, just clicking in an area where nothing is selected. I'm going to use the pen tool. And I'm going to go up here to my pen tool. And I want to turn my fill completely off. So I click on the word fill. I'm going to click this red arrow. And that turns off fill. In other words, there's no color in it, it's just hollow. And I want my stroke to be 10 pixels. And I want my color to be white. So the script says click to the left and slightly above the top left of your letters, and then holding shift click below the bottom letters left. And it's easier to just demonstrate it than it is to read it. But I'm going to come over here above my name, click, down here, shift, holding shift, and now I've made my cursor. And that's good. It has to be bigger than your name. As long as it's bigger than the top and bottom of my name, we're okay. And I need to rename the layer cursor. You can control click. If you hold down control, if you're a PC, it's a right mouse click. If you're a Mac, hold down control and click. And I want to rename it cursor. Click off of it to save it. That's what I did. I clicked down here, click off. In the timeline, we're going to transform toggle position or hit the P to bring up data. So now I'm going to hit the P button to bring up position. I want to select cursor because I want to select the layer that I'm working on. Hit P button, position, or I can go to transform and position. Make sure your CTI is at the beginning of your timeline. I'm going to click position. I'm going to make a keyframe. I'm going to go forward 1 second. Right about there. Move the cursor to the other side using the x-axis, like so. So that, hit the space bar, we've moved. I'll show that again. hit the space bar, we've moved. Back at the beginning of my timeline now. I'm going to make a mat using the rectangle tool. And this is our rectangle tool. So now I'm going to create a shape that fully colors my name. So before I do that, I want to make sure nothing is selected. I'm going to create this shape. Fully covers my name. And I want it to be about the same height as my cursor. I'm going to rename this layer. Control click. And I'm going to rename it to say rectangle. Now I'm going to position the right edge of the rectangle, which is this size, over here. I'm going to slightly overlap with the left edge of my cursor. So in order to do that, I need to move the position, transform position, to move it over here. So that there it is. It's slightly overlapping my cursor to look like that. I want to parent the rectangle to my cursor. So parent and link, we used this in the last lesson, and I'm going to call it cursor there, so that when the cursor moves, so does my shape layer. And now I need to move things around so that they will work correctly. So I need my cursor layer to be on top, rectangle to be underneath of it, the text layer with my name, and of course my solid. Now in the track mat drop down menu on the timeline, we're going to change our name layer to be an alpha matte rectangle. Sounds complicated, not that hard. Follow along. Track mat drop down menu with my name. I'm going to change it to be an alpha matte with the rectangle. And voila, hit the space bar. The alpha matte is doing what we need it to do. Moving on to page 2 of the assignment. Now we're going to make a new composition. So composition, new composition. We just want it to be called comp2. Same parameters as before. Now we've got comp2. And you'll notice down here, I've got my render queue, I've got this, and I've got this. You can have as many timelines as you need working down here, which is why we're able to do this. Now I want to copy my text layer with my name and the background layer, gray solid, from this composition into this composition. So in order to do that, I can hold down here. I'm going to hit the shift button, hold down here. I'm going to go Control C or Command C. Command C if you're a Mac, Control C if you're a PC. For me, I'm a Mac. Command C. Go over to Comp 2. Command V or Control V. Now, just to be safe, and this is where things get really weird, sometimes you need to turn on and off the track mats and stuff like that. So I'm going to just change it there. I'm going to turn it off. So make sure nothing's there. And now I need to make sure that my name layer is also turned on. So it's normal. Everything's fine. Alright. It gets tricky. This has happened to a lot of students in the past, in class, and try to fix it. So I'm going to create a new white solid. So I go up to Layer, New Solid, and this time I want it to be completely white. Now you will notice, look, track mats are still on. This is exactly what I'm talking about. No track mat. Everything should be normal. Everything should be turned on. So change the opacity. I hit the letter T for opacity to come up, and I'm going to change it to 50. And the reason we're doing that is so we can work with it. We will change it back to normal here momentarily. But I want to basically see what's behind it. So in order to do that, I can do the opacity at 50. I'm going to resize the solid by grabbing an anchor point in the upper left hand corner. This is an anchor point, this red square. And I'm going to grab and hold the anchor point, and so that the solid is just about as big as my name. just like that. Those of you that missed that, we'll do that again. Grabbing the red, make sure our solid is selected, clicking off of it, clicking onto it. Make sure we're using our selection tool. Now grabbing the red solid, clicking and holding, just like that. Using the pan behind tool, and this is the pan behind tool. I don't use it very often, but when I do use it, it's an excellent tool. This is the pan behind tool. Select it, and I'm going to move. I'm going to reposition the anchor point to the far right. So this is the main anchor point here in the center, and I'm going to move that basically to the far right, right over top of that red square there. And you'll see why here in a minute, why that's important. Now I'm going to scale my solid. I'm going to move the CTI ahead a few frames. Basically, I'm going to do it 1 second. Now I'm going to create a keyframe on scale. Go back to the beginning of the timeline. And I'm going to unlink them. Basically, deselect the constraint proportions here. And I'm going to set my X value to 0 so that just like that. And now I'm going to change my opacity of my solid to 100. And another thing to remember is once you make a keyframe, any other changes you make will automatically create a keyframe. But I had not made a keyframe on my opacity, so therefore I can do whatever I want with it. But I'm going to make it 100 just like that. Now we have to track mat it. Now I'm going to duplicate the name layer and my solid layer. Command D or Control D if you're a PC. Command D there. And my white solid layer, I need to duplicate it as well. Command D. I need to arrange my layers so that it's white solid, my name 2, my name, and white solid, and then of course background. Set name 2 and your bottom solid to alpha inverted matte. Alpha inverted matte. And then the second white solid to alpha inverted matte. So that when I do it, we have what we need. So the final step here, which is add this comp to the timeline of your first one so that it flows from cursor wipe onto the solid wipe. I'm going to go back to this timeline, and what I want to do is I'm going to drag comp 2 down here. And there's the composition, there's this composition right here. It's now inside this composition. I'm going to move it a little bit past one, and I'm going to make sure I have my selection tool. Click and hold and move it a little bit past. And this is key, and here's what I want you to remember is Command Z. Don't do this. That's actually not what we want, because you'll notice you have this hollow area here. We want to physically move the composition to start after so that it has a nice ebb and flow to it. Okay, make sure you render it, and same parameters and everything for exporting media, same YouTube video. If you have questions or confusion, just let me know. But render it and either send it to me via WeTransfer or upload it to your YouTube page. I recommend YouTube just so you have a record of it. Questions, text me. If we run into issues again, we'll probably use Zoom this week so I can see your desktop. So make sure you have Zoom downloaded on your laptop. And again, good luck.